Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We thank the Creator for protection, health, guidance, and courage. We ask to continue to watch over us as well as our friends, family, and loved ones. Greetings, brothers and sisters. Assalamu alaikum. One of the many things I've learned from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is that there is no title greater than that of brother. And because of this, I go by the name Brother John. I am the third Vice President for Division 421 here in Atlanta. Division 421 is the official local chapter of the UNIA-ACL, or the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League. And let me stop now and address one of the biggest disagreements we hear when talking with our people about the UNIA, and that's the word Negro. We know that we have taken on several names in regards to race, from Negro to colored, African American, Moorish American, black, among many others. We feel that we can decide what we call ourselves after we regain power. The name we call ourselves is not what is important. It's our unity that is important. But as I will share later, we must understand that there was a time that we had to fight for the title Negro. And that is a part of our history that we in the UNIA choose to acknowledge. In the Atlanta Division in 421, we currently serve under the leadership of the 11th President General, the Honorable Michael Duncan, who is the current successor of the founder of the organization and the first President General, the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey. This organization was created by Marcus Garvey and his wife Amy Ashwood Garvey in Jamaica in the year 1914 for all Africans, those at home and those abroad. Division 421 has been in existence here in Atlanta since 2009, and the UNIA will commemorate 105 years of existence on July 19th of this year. Today, I am here to share with you something that took me over 30 years to understand. I believe we are all aware of Marcus Garvey and the UNIA and the red, black, and green flag. But what I wish to share with you today is how these three things are interwoven to become one. For us in the UNIA, this is the holy trinity of black nationhood. As a Christian, I was taught that the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost were one. As a Garveyite, I have learned that the red, black, and green, the UNIA-ACL, and Marcus Garvey himself are one. At Division 421, we believe one of the best ways to represent the UNIA is to share the foundation of the organization and the accomplishments that our ancestors have made throughout history. And first, I would like to share with you the 11 aims and objectives of the UNIA. Keep in mind, these aims and objectives were written during the founding of the UNIA in 1914. Objective number 1 is to establish a universal confraternity among the race. Confraternity is another word for brotherhood or collective. As Garvey would say, one for all and all for one. It is our responsibility as members of the UNIA to rebuild the one body of our race throughout the world with the exclusion of none. Marcus Garvey says, quote, "Every Negro's interest must come first in all things of humanity. Not until you have served every Negro in the world should you seek to be kind to others. Charity begins at home," unquote. Or as we say today, race first. Objective number 2 is to prompt the spirit of pride and love. Garvey says, quote, "It must be the mission of all Negroes to have pride in their race, to think of the race in the highest terms of human living, to think that God made the race perfect, and there is no one better than you, that you have all the elements of human perfection, and as such, you must love yourselves," end quote. Objective number 3 is to reclaim the fallen. The fallen implies those that have become victim to alcohol or drug abuse, homelessness, sexual confusion, the victims of the ma'afa in the system, among other concerns. Garvey tells us, quote, wherever a member of your race is down, pick him up. Whenever he wants genuine help and you can help him, do so. Never leave him stranded and friendless," end quote. Objective number 4 is to administer and assist the needy. It is to be our highest purpose in life to assist the needy members of our race, and we must use all influence and power in this endeavor. Objective number 5 is to assist in civilizing the tribes of Africa. Our ancestors knew that Africa was the motherland and therefore the natural home of our race. Garvey writes, quote, "One day all Negroes hope to look to Africa as the land of their vine and fig tree. It is necessary, therefore, to help the tribes who live in Africa to advance to a higher state of civilization. It is the Negro who must help the Negro." End quote. Garvey envisioned a new Africa capable of being the home of all black people. Africa should have no need to receive aid from anyone but her own children. Africa has populated the entire world, and to this day, she continues to provide the world's resources. Objective number 6 is to assist in the development of independent Negro nations and communities. Our goal is not to only have one nation, but to combine these independent nations into one great racial empire. Every community in which we live should be developed and owned by us, so that we have control of that part of the community. Garvey felt that we should concentrate our numbers so that we have strength to do business, to work with government, and to voice our rights as citizens. We as members of the UNIA consider this a positive form of segregation. Objective number 7 is to establish commissionaries or agencies in the principal countries and cities of the world for the representation and protection of all Negroes, irrespective of nationality. This means that there should be a representative in every city that our people live that can look after our interests. Their position is that of an ambassador of a nation. They must be aware of all things affecting our people and see to it that no one is taken advantage of. Objective number 8 is to promote a conscientious spiritual worship among the native tribes of Africa. Our ancestors were aware that there were many different religious beliefs among our people, but they also believed that we should be brought under the influence of one religion and the belief in one God. Hence the motto of the UNIA is one God, one aim, one destiny. Objective number 9 is to establish universities, colleges, academies, and schools for the racial education and culture of the people. Our ancestors felt that we should not be satisfied with the educational system of the white man, which was devised by him for his own purpose and to lead others to the obedience of his system. Even in 1914, our ancestors knew that we should not only have our own schools, but we should have our own system of education. We should be taught our own history. We must write our own books. Garvey said, quote, the white man's books laud himself and outrages the Negro, end quote. We should not be satisfied with the college education from white schools, but should add to this schooling of our own, which glorifies our race, for the white man's system glorifies the white man. Objective number 10 is to conduct a worldwide commercial and industrial intercourse for the good of the people. This implies the need to be able to create and consume the goods we produce or require on a consistent basis. Garvey says, quote, the economic life of the Negro is important. He is to live by eating, wearing clothes, and living in a home. They are essential. To get these things, he must work, either with his hands or with his brains, end quote. It is necessary that we build an economic structure strong enough to provide for all of our people throughout the world, requiring the aid of no one but ourselves. Finally, objective number 11 is to work for the better conditions in all Negro communities. This is a catch-all for anything that was not mentioned specifically. We have a responsibility to do everything we can to improve the conditions of our people. Garvey tells us, quote, no stone should be left unturned. There is always work to be done in this respect, end quote. Those are the 11 aims and objectives of the UNIA that were established by our ancestors in 1914. And in 2019, I can tell you that those are still the aims and objectives of the UNIA-ACL today. Now, I would like to discuss what we believe to be one of, if not the greatest accomplishment our ancestors achieved. And that is the events that took place during the first International Convention of Negro Peoples of the World held in New York in August 1920. We must first understand that our ancestors worked from sunup to sundown in New York City from August 1st to August 31st. These are all of our ancestors. These are individuals coming from different parts of the world that probably never met each other before this time. They were able to put aside any differences and work together successfully every day for a month. They were not only able to work, but live, eat, sleep, travel, and sacrifice together for 31 straight days, as I said, from sunup to sundown. According to international law, there are 5 requirements to establish a government in modern time. And in modern time is considered the last 1,000 years. And this is exactly what our ancestors did. The first requirement is to hold a plebiscite. A plebiscite is a public declaration by the people. On August 1st, 1920, our ancestors held a plebiscite at Madison Square Garden that consisted of over 25,000 of our people. Our ancestors expressed publicly their desire to be a part of their own government. The second requirement is a declaration. On August 13th, 1920, our ancestors introduced the Declaration of Rights of the Negro People of the World. This was a public declaration that consisted of 12 complaints and 54 declarations of rights. And as I said previously, our ancestors had to fight to first be called a Negro. Declaration number 11 states that, quote, "We deprecate the use of the term nigger as applied to Negroes and demand that the word Negro be written with a capital N," end quote. On Declaration number 53, we declare that the 31st day of August shall be an international holiday for black people to commemorate the forming of the government. So every August 31st, we celebrate our Independence Day. And Declaration number 39 was that the colors of the Negro race shall be red, black, and green, which brings us to the third requirement. The third requirement to establish a government in modern time is to have a flag. On August 15th, 1920, Marcus Garvey introduced the red, black, and green flag to the world. We all carry the red, black, and green flag, but we can't separate the flag from the UNIA. We have to recognize that this is the flag that our ancestors created for us. This was the flag to represent a global government. This was the first flag to represent a global government. The red is for the blood. Although we may have different complexions on the outside, it is the same blood that runs through all of our veins. We have common ancestry, and the blood is what binds us, not the hue of our melanin or the landmass on which we were born. The black is for the skin, the melanin of the original man from which we are all descendants. The green is for the land of the original man, the land from which some of us were taken, and the land which has been divided by the colonizers, the motherland of Africa. The fourth requirement is a constitution. The first constitution was produced by the UNIA in 1918. This is one of maybe 10 original constitutions that still exist in Georgia. The Constitution was last amended in 1938, and we are currently working on new amendments that are to be released in 2020. The fifth and final requirement is recognition from other governments. Dr. Tony Martin wrote a historical summary of Marcus Garvey and the Universal Negro Improvement Association in his book titled, quote, Race First, which was described by Dr. John Henry Clark as, quote, as close to a definitive study of Marcus Garvey as there has ever been, end quote. In this text, Dr. Martin documents that there were 721 branches of the UNIA outside the U.S., and we are aware from the aims and objectives of the organization that these branches consisted of embassies and ambassadors in their respective countries. Dr. Martin writes, quote, no area of significant black population in the world was without a UNIA branch, end quote. So my brothers and sisters, in conclusion, this is what we represent here at UNIA-ACL Division 421 here in Atlanta. We represent the original aims and objectives of the organization that were established by our ancestors in 1914, and we represent the government that our ancestors established in 1920. We believe in self-reliance and self-governance, and as such, we feel that we have an obligation to uphold and strengthen the government because this is what we will pass down for our children to inherit. As I said in my opening, you cannot separate the red, black, and green from the UNIA and Marcus Garvey. If we are representing the red, black, and green, we have to give $3 a month to the UNIA for the upkeep of the government that our ancestors created for all of us. And by doing this, you will be able to get your black government ID. And with that, you can come and meet the local division president, Ross Marvin, and support the organization right back here at this table. Thank you again. And as we close in the UNIA, we say one God, one aim, one destiny. Assalamu alaikum.